not until he punches me in the face am I convinced that I'm a victim. And even then, you will not be convinced. Before we get into the episode, I want to remind people I am doing the Oxford Half Marathon, where I'm raising money for Helen and Douglas Children's Hospice, which is a local hospice, and they need £6 million a year to fund the non-profit. So the link is going to be down in the description. So, you know, £1, £100, 1k, I don't mind, just whatever you can give. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Shaihalffull. I am your host Amani, and we've got a guest this episode. We have Faustine. Woo!
I'm really excited to be here. My first time doing a podcast, and it's a pleasure to be yours for the first time. So yeah.
Oh, stop. I'm so gassed. She's so busy, and I literally basically had to force her to come. She was like, I'm busy, and I have these 2 days that I can be, and I was like, all right, we've got to drag her here. And I'm so glad you could make it, by the way.
I'm looking forward to it.
How has your week been and everything?
It's been good. You know, I'm still a uni student, so when you're approaching that kind of Easter period, end of Easter period, it's very busy, very stressful, but I feel like today will be a nice little unwind moment, and I'll get to yap, which is my favorite thing.
Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to ask you, and I ask this to all the guests, what have you recently been grateful for?
That is a good question. And I'm glad you asked me, because I feel like it's not really something I reflect on enough in my life. I think I'm grateful for good health.
Yeah.
At the moment, I've battled with chronic health issues in the past. So right now my health is really good and stable. And yeah, I'm feeling really grateful for that.
Okay, that's lovely. Yeah. I think that a lot of people don't think about the fact that I'm actually healthy enough for me to get up and brush my teeth and go walk somewhere or go to the shop or something, and we tend to be grateful for it only at the times where we can't do that stuff. So I think it's very important to practice gratitude and also to remember what we are able to do. So that's a good one. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about where you're born, where you grew up, and your cultural background?
So I am born in England. I'm British. And I think that's it's an interesting time to kind of reflect on that, because we've seen the rise of reform and far right fascist racist parties who have this kind of notion that you can't be British and look like me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm British, but I'm French, and I'm also North African and East African, so I'm mixed race, basically.
Okay, just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, literally a bit of everything, yeah.
Nice. And your mum is the French person?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. French. So do you indulge a lot in French culture, or?
Yeah, so I speak fluent French.
Yeah.
Having grown up with my mum who is French, I went to France every summer. I grew up going there with my grandparents, and they didn't speak any English at all.
Okay, yeah.
So I kind of had to learn the language. So I'd say, yeah, I speak fluent French. I like French music. I like French food. It does lack seasoning a little bit. But no, yeah.
Speaking of French food, my boyfriend was like, you need to try raclette. You need to try it.
Oh, the cheese.
He's begging me to try it.
So good. Do you like dairy though? Are you good with dairy?
I like cheese. Yeah. I think
it's so good.
Cheese is one of my favorite foods.
Yeah, really good.
But no, it was really nice when we did try it eventually. But it's I think one of his favorite things to eat.
It's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit like fondue, kind of ish.
My bad. What's fondue? I'm
it's
so
also
uncultured.
Cheese. It's also cheese. Imagine a chocolate fountain but cheese, low-key. You put it in. No,
it's supposed to be like that. I think.
Okay, similar,
but yeah. I don't know. And what French music do you like? Because I want to listen to French music. So I
like Aya Nakamura.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Exactly.
yeah.
So it's she's also someone who's had a lot of racism this past year. I don't know if you saw with the Olympics.
Oh my god, yeah.
Why are you opening? You're not even French.
Yeah.
But she's an artist that I really, really like. I also like Gims, for anyone listening. Also French music, but with some Afrobeat influence.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of Afro swing French music. Yeah,
loads. So that's a bit of me.
That's nice, lovely. Yeah. I might need to research that.
Yeah.
But I'm not a very big music person. I feel that's why it takes me so long to be oh, someone sends me a song, I'm listening to it 6 months later. It just takes so long for me to actually try to discover new music. But yeah, I hope it I hope it's good, yeah?
It better be good. It's very good.
All right, cool. So I wanted to speak about Make It Mandatory,
Yeah.
which is something that you founded. And yeah, I wanted you to give like an introduction as to what the campaign is and what you guys do.
Yeah. So Make It Mandatory is basically it started as a petition. I feel like that's kind of how we came about. So almost 3 years ago this summer, I set up a petition on change.org, which is like a petition website for anyone who doesn't know. And my ask on that petition was for the government to extend something called RSE. So that is Relationships and Sex Education. In England at the moment, this is capped at 16. So you'll have that until you're 16, and then that's it. You won't have any more lessons. The kind of topics that RSE covers are like sexual health, practicing safe sex, healthy relationships, how to spot domestic abuse, coercive control, good mental health. It's really wide ranging, and it's, as you can tell from the topics I'm mentioning, it's really important for children and young people. So my ask, was for that to be extended from 16 to 18, so young people have that like throughout their whole time in education. And I guess it is a very personal ask to me, because when I was a teenager, I was in a relationship that was very violent and abusive and just like very toxic and unhealthy. And I kind of thought back when I left that relationship and like moved to a new city and went to uni. I thought, well, maybe if I had this kind of education, I could have spotted the signs earlier and maybe left the relationship sooner, known where to get some support, that kind of thing. So that's kind of was the main motivation, I guess.
Yeah. So what you're saying is like what inspired you is that you were thinking back, like, if I at 17 had this type of education, I could have spotted this.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course.
Exactly.
I do want like people to also understand to not like blame yourself when you are in that type of situation, because at the end of the day, it's the perpetrator's fault.
Always.
But it's always good for us to actually be able to tell what is the problem. Like, is this a normal relationship? Is this how like they're supposed to speak to me? You know? But okay, so is there like a reason why you started this specific cause rather than any other one? Is it because of your personal experience, would you say?
Yeah, I think definitely my personal experiences led me to it. I think like a lot of non-profit kind of organizations, it's something that takes a lot of time and mental energy from you. And I think you really have to believe in that ask. And my personal experience really has given me that motivation to keep going, because it's something I do on the side of uni, right? Like I don't get paid for this. I don't get any personal like benefit or gain. So it definitely my own lived experiences. And I just want to touch on what you said earlier, because I thought it was a really good point about not blaming yourself, because I think that's something I experienced. I was like, oh, well, why didn't I realize sooner? Or why did I tolerate with this behavior for so long? And actually that, like you said, shifts the blame onto you, when really the only person who should be held accountable is your perpetrator. And our education is definitely in no way trying to kind of put the blame onto young people. We want them to know the signs before they even get into relationships, just so that they're aware, like, love literally shouldn't hurt. Like your partner should not be swearing at you, putting you down, calling you names. We want all young people to really be fully aware of this before they go out into the world after school. And it's a big wide world out there, like literally.
And what do you think the difference is for when the RSE education, is it RSE education or is it RSE?
RSE, perfect.
For when it ends at 16, what do you think the difference is for having those extra 2 years?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I've done a lot of research on this issue, and our research found that basically, and the government's own research found that 16 to 19-year-olds are the most likely to experience domestic abuse than any other age group. So that was a census of basically like over 1 million people. And that includes much older people, like women who are in their 40s. And you wouldn't think 16 to 19-year-olds experience it more than maybe like middle-aged women with children, but they do. And I think that's an uncomfortable reality for a lot of people to hear, that children are experiencing domestic violence, sexual violence, because they're children. You don't want to imagine that.
Of course.
But this is something that, it doesn't matter how uncomfortable it is, this is the reality, and we need to face up to it and support these young people. So I think the main difference is that statistically they're more vulnerable. And I think also, yes, some children do, and young people like do get into relationships young, but typically it is around that 16, 17, you're getting your first boyfriend. Like, I know for me, I got my first boyfriend at 16 years old, rather than the younger age group like 13, 14, 15. It's just less likely on average.
Right. Yeah, you're right, because I think that when you have that education, because when I had it when I was younger, I just thought like boring, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what am I going to do? Like, and plus at that age group, you don't really think about how your partner is going to treat you. You just think about wanting a partner.
Yeah,
I think like,
so right.
yeah,
You're
like
so right.
when you're like 14, like you're just like, oh, the boys are here, or like they're like, oh, the girls are here. Like all you're thinking about is like starting the romantic relationship. You're not actually actively in it most of the time, like obviously statistically speaking. And once you're like in sixth form is when people are a lot more chill. Like no one's like, oh, the boys are here. People are a lot more chill, and you start like getting into these types of relationships. And yeah, I think that it's actually like such a good like petition that you actually thought of, because it's preventative measure.
Exactly.
And a lot of people, I feel like, don't think about the before and how to stop it. A lot of people think, oh, like we should put these people in jail, we should have them as lab rats. I'm like, okay, but why do we not stop it at the root of the issue? And I think that culturally speaking, like I know that it's like the global majority that goes through this, and it's the fact that there's a stigma with abusive marriages and relationships and stuff. And do you have any idea how we can destigmatize like the courage to like leave the relationship, or like just destigmatize the issue?
It's a really good question. I think in some cultures it's definitely almost sort of a taboo to talk about these things. I think the first thing really to bring about like destigmatization is women need to feel like they do have somewhere to go. And I think a lot of women are financially dependent on their abuser through no fault of their own. It's because their abuser has isolated them. It's not a choice that they've just given up their bank details. Isolated them from friends and family. I think the first thing is to create a community where women know basically if I'm going through an unhealthy relationship or marriage, I can leave because these other women in the community won't judge me, won't shame me, won't weaponize religion against me or culture or whatever it might be. I think it's really creating that kind of like safe environment is the first thing. Secondly, I think it's really difficult because these are issues that our communities have faced like forever, and we're not seeing much change. Like the younger generation like us, we're talking about it. Yeah. But the older generation seems so set and stuck in their ways. And for me, I feel really proud to see, you know, women like you and women like myself advocating for this change. Yeah. But I do get low-key depressed. I'm like, because nothing is really changing beyond us. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. And I think that, yes, we talk about it, but there has to be a lot more talking. Like it has to be a lot. It has to reach the point where your close-knit community is also talking about it. Yeah. Like if we're talking about it here on podcast, someone can just be like, swipe and just not bother with it. But if everyone around you is like, you know, pushing you to leave a relationship, it is much easier. And like in Sudan and also like just the communities outside of Sudan, I have seen people beg women to get back with their husbands, like literally beg. Like you have to try because of your kids. What are your kids gonna say? What is everyone gonna say? What, like, and it's just like, you can't be serious. You would rather your own cousin or your own neighbor or anyone put themselves through emotional turmoil to keep everyone else happy? No. And like your kids, I always say this, like your kids view your relationship as an example of how love should be. So when you stay in a relationship because your partner is abusive, they're obviously going to think like, my husband should be like this, or my wife should be like this, or, you know, I won't leave if they're like that, or I can be like this as well, like the perpetrator, which is not acceptable because you're setting up your kids for failure, and that is the worst thing that happens. And I think that's why generation after generation we're like trapped in these relationships.
It's a cycle, right?
It's a horrible cycle. And I think also, speaking like culturally, because we have this big stigma, no one really acknowledges the signs of like, this is bad, you know? So how do you think that people can like see the signs of coercive behavior, because I think that for someone to be like, leave, they're going to be like, why would I leave?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, like how would people see the signs?
It's a good point. And the thing of leave, I think a lot of people shame women, and they're like, well, you know, he might have hit you 5 years ago. Why are you still there 5 years later?
Oh.
And it's just a disgusting argument.
Disgusting argument.
It's a disgusting argument. Puts all the blame back on the victim, like you said earlier. Instead of saying, how can I support you to leave? That's what we should be reframing it as, not why didn't you leave? What can I do to help you get out of the situation, right? So obviously, I'm campaigning for education, which is one way to see the signs. But more broadly, I think it's important for us to discuss what the signs are. So like from my own experience of experiencing like coercive and controlling behavior, it started really small and like almost at the point that I didn't notice it.
Yeah.
So it would be things like kind of like asking where I am. And when you're young, and even when you're not young, you know, women much older than me experience this. Like it's masked as love and as care. So it's also like so confusing because you're like, oh my God, like he actually really cares about me.
Yeah.
So if your partner is constantly asking where you are all the time, wanting to be with you, also putting you down. This is something I personally experienced. Like, let's say you wear an outfit that you're really confident in and you're like going clubbing with your girlfriends or whatever, and your partner's like, no, like you're just not wearing that. There's no chance, and just makes you feel rubbish about it. So you change. That is also a form of controlling behavior.
Yeah.
Masters like protection. I'm protecting you so you don't get certain attention.
Yes.
Which I'm sure like we know people who've experienced that.
Yes, and I think most of us have experienced that. Their argument never makes sense. I don't understand argument ever.
Yeah.
And your partner should be able to should be free to wear whatever the hell they want, like genuinely. But yeah, so is there any other signs?
I think so location, some abusers, like in my work along the way, I've learned that some abusers do put tracking devices on their partner's phones. So there's a difference between maybe, you know, having Find My Friends on with your partner and your friends.
Yeah. That's
one thing for safety. But I think if your partner is obsessing over it and being like, you said you were here, you're not here, or why are you still here, why are you not at home? It's a very fine line, right?
Exactly.
But if it's constant and repetitive, and also if it just makes you feel not good, that is a sign in itself. So yeah, just controlling your movements, controlling what you wear, putting you down. Those are all signs of abuse that I think we don't recognize enough because it's not physical. And there's still that very, very old trope that I'm trying so hard to break with my campaign, which is that abuse isn't always being slapped or punched. Abuse can be sexual. Abuse can be financial. Abuse can be emotional, like gaslighting, making you question your reality, like, is this real, is this not? So it's a really big spectrum is what I really want to emphasize.
Definitely. And like you said, when there's a fine line, you don't really know, and so I think it's quite important for us to have that further education for us to actually be able to spot it, rather than, because at the end of the day, you have to give the benefit of the doubt in some situations. And then once it's repetitive is when you can be like, okay, now this is a red flag. Now. But yeah, no, it's definitely a good point that you made. And I wanted to talk about like, we have this, which you mentioned to me, we have this like toxicity, romanticization in social media quite a lot. And I noticed it going a few years back, just seeing these memes of like, oh, like when the police officer cuffs my boyfriend and I'm telling him to let him go and stuff like that. I don't understand where it stemmed from, first and foremost. But like, how do you feel like about it, and how much it's influencing people? How much do you think it really does influence people? So
I can speak for children and young people because that's the group that I work with and I have the most knowledge of. I think you're very vulnerable and you're very impressionable as a young person, right? Like, you're not 25, your prefrontal cortex is not even developed yet. And I've just turned 25 and I still feel super vulnerable. I think it is a really big issue. I think maybe it might have lessened slightly, but I remember there was one point where I would log into TikTok and I'd see videos like, oh, like, need me a man who is obsessing over where I am all the time. Love me a man that will like punch the wall. if so and so happens. And it's like this romanticization of toxicity. I remember even this video, and she was showing like she was out and there was a picture of her and there was a guy too close to her in the background or whatever. And she recorded her boyfriend's reaction. And it was him screaming on the phone at her and being like, where the hell are you? Like, you're mine and only mine. Like, just screaming. And all the comments, Amani, I was so speechless. It was like, love her eyes, need me a man like that. Where can I find one? And I was like so taken aback because I was like, this is nothing to be. It starts like that, and then the next thing it will be physical. Do you know what I mean? It always starts verbally and then it escalates often. And even if it doesn't escalate, that alone, you shouldn't be accepting to be spoken to like that.
Yeah.
So I do think it is romanticized. I do think that children and young people, some of them will find that attractive because it's what they're being bombarded with on social media. And that's not the benchmark of a healthy relationship.
Yes, of course. And with that, like, him shouting, being like, oh, you're only mine, I always say the first step to abuse is isolation. Like,
you're so right.
Your partner will try to isolate you completely from your friends, from your family, so that it's easier to manipulate you and it's easier to convince you that what they're doing is okay or protective. And I don't know if you've watched the I forgot what it's called, Maid, I think. It's a show. Yeah, so basically what happened in that series is that her partner threw something close to her. So so it just like hit the wall, I think, or something. And when she would, I think she tried to go to like a safe house or like whatever, and she kept saying, yes, but he didn't actually hit me, you know? And she kept saying like, you know, he never actually punched me. He just got angry. He just started drinking and he started throwing stuff. Like, and I think it really shows how much people put a definitive line on physical abuse. And it's just like, not until he punches me in the face am I convinced that I'm a victim. And even then, you will not be convinced because you have like given him the grace of like verbally abusing you and financially abusing you and all of that. After all of that, when it comes to the physical abuse, you'll probably just be like, he just slapped me and he said he'd never do it again, you know? And then it starts off like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it just goes to show like how people have this like definitive line, like, no, you know, like it's not physical abuse, so it's fine, but it's not fine.
I agree. And I think a lot of abusers know that and play on that as well. Like they know that they can smash a mug against the wall and that won't be seen as abuse because it's not physically harming the person. But to me, that is a clear sign of abusive behavior, and more abusive behavior to come that will only escalate from the wall to you. There's like a saying which is, first he punches the wall, then he'll punch you. It doesn't matter that it's not hurting you, it's scaring you.
Exactly.
To have a mug or a plate thrown at a wall so close to you, that's done intentionally to put you on edge. Abusive men, they all share similar traits of narcissism and things like that. They know full well when they're smashing something against the wall, you're scared and you're on edge. And it's to create that fear in you. It's telling you, look what I can do.
Yes.
I'm restraining myself this one time, but look what I could do.
Exactly.
To make you modify your behavior and like put yourself in line with what they want from you, to manipulate you, just as you said earlier, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so speaking of like Netflix series, have you watched Adolescence?
I have watched Adolescence.
What did you think of it?
Lots to say, really. I think I thought that the acting was incredible. I liked the normality of it in the sense that the parents were really normal. The boy was so normal. Like, it was just a very normal school. It wasn't exceptionalism, which makes it feel like kind of out of reach. Like, oh, this could never happen in my community. I like the realness of it, the rawness of it. And I also think that it should be a big wake-up call. Like, we had Ellie and Andam get murdered, I think it was last year. The girl who died after being stabbed on a school bus, the black girl, she was 15. Then we had Holly Newton, who was also 15 and who was stabbed by her 16-year-old boyfriend. These are not things that are like, oh, like, no way could that happen anymore. These have been happening and have only gotten worse. So I think it brought attention to a really like necessary and serious issue. But I'm curious to hear what you thought about it too.
No way. Okay, so I think that, so I was terrified of this 13-year-old watching it. I was like, my goodness, he is a good actor.
Yeah. It was so scary.
It was terrifying. And even like the scene with the psychologist, and she was scared of him. I think that, so at first, it's a lot of the time, the parents are just thinking like, how could this happen? I personally thought that the father could not see how his anger influenced his son, and how it's escalated from that. At the end of the day, his father was not portrayed as an abusive father or an abusive husband. But I think that it triggers something when your parent is someone who's angry, and yet they are still loved in their relationship and they're still being taken care of. And I liked the fact that I don't like this in real life, but I like the fact that they showed that the parents are completely clueless as to how their son acts in school. So I saw a lot of people online say she bullied him, like the girl who died. It showed how realistically, when things like this do happen, people like to shift the blame to the victim. And a lot of people like to think that they can separate fiction from reality. You can't. Creative arts have always been political, and they've always been a standpoint for people to open their eyes to what's actually happening. For example, the show You. Penn Badgley was saying, how are you guys still defending this guy? The actual actor. He kept being like, how are you guys still defending this guy? And and then I saw a comment being like, oh, we're smart enough to separate fiction from reality. No, you cannot. No, you cannot. The guy, like Joe Goldberg, is giving you his narrative, and he's trying to convince you. At the same time, he's manipulating you into believing what he's doing is okay and justified. And the same reason you guys are supporting him, or you have this fandom, is the exact same reason Ted Bundy got away with it for so long. And that's what I mean when people say like, we can separate fiction from reality. You really can't, you know? And so when it came to adolescents and people that I saw that were blaming the victim of the crime, it just showed to me how in real life, that's exactly how it happens. And yeah, no, it was a very good series, I thought. And I liked the fact that they mentioned like Andrew Tate in it, and the rise of like the whole red pill, like toxic, toxic masculinity. I like the fact that they mentioned how it's coming from social media, because that's exactly where it's coming from. And I think there was like a statistic that showed that like 70%, I might just be wrong, but it's a large percentage of female teachers that said that the boys wouldn't speak to them because they were women, you know?
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's not far removed, but when I was in school, there was not this type of like, we didn't have Andrew Tate, we didn't have these type of people. So no one really said, I'm not speaking to you because you're a woman, you know? So for me, I'm like, how quickly did this happen? Because I wasn't in school that long ago. It's not 50 years ago that I was in school. How quickly did that happen? You know? So
good point. And I think incels is something that now people are talking about. Like even in the show, you know, the dad didn't know Andrew Tate. The policeman's son had to explain to him, Dad, this is what people are consuming in my school. This is what an incel is. Which, if anyone who's listening and doesn't know, like it means involuntary celibate. And there are some really good like books and resources on this now. But to me, like those of us who've been working in the sector have been saying for years, get this Andrew Tate deplatformed. Andrew Tate is not just an incel, he is a sex trafficker. He is a rapist. He, honestly, the list goes on, like the amount of criminal things that he's done.
He literally moved to Romania because he said that the rules are more relaxed there.
The thing is, you don't even need to like catch him. He just outs himself, right?
That's it, yeah.
Why is he on Spotify? Why are children able to listen to that Spotify? And it's all I feel like it's all interconnected for me. Like, society just doesn't like or respect women enough to put perimeters in place and put things in place to safeguard women. Like, if it was any other group, honestly, I think it would be dealt with by now. But I think women have been systematically and historically devalued, and violence against women and girls is something which a lot of people actually don't care about and don't care to change because they partake in it themselves, right? They partake in going to uni and sleeping with a girl who's had too much to drink, which is rape because you can't consent. They think, oh no, I don't partake in that. That's an Andrew Tate thing. But many men that we know in our own lives do partake in this, do abuse their girlfriends, right? So it's a whole social change that needs to change, not just the removing of incels. That's not enough. We need like a wholesale change of society because Spotify makes money from Andrew Tate being on there. That's why they don't want to deplatform him. The more clicks they get, the more money they make.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also when you said about like how a lot of people think that they're not part of this group, rape culture is very broad. You literally just walking past a woman that just got punched by her boyfriend, you are like, you're enabling it. And it's like a lot of the time people don't understand that just by standing there, you can be involved, like in the narrative, and just like protecting someone because you think, no, he's nice. He just did this one thing. Like, please, I promise you, just doing that, you're making it so much worse than you can possibly imagine, you know? But yeah, no, I think a lot of people don't see that they are part of it. But who do you think is part of it then? Where is your line? Where is your threshold? Where is it?
It's a good question. I think a lot of men turn a blind eye to their friends' to their boys' behavior. They see, you know, their friend gropes up someone at the bar. But they're like, I'm not doing it, so it's fine. I'm not doing it. If you're not being like an active bystander and you're just letting all of these things happen on your watch, you are complicit in this system, right? And I think men, I'm so tired of women having to do all the labor. Like in the violence against women and girls sector, it is largely women working there. It's time for men to step, like they're the root cause of the problem anyway. So why is it us having to pick up all the pieces for their violence towards us? Like, I think men need to start holding each other accountable as well. That's like something that really has got to change, because honestly the patience is thin.
Yes, definitely. No, it's definitely difficult, and as you said, it's sad that only the people affected by it are the people who are like standing up, but like, because even sometimes when I post stuff, and you know me, I advocate for like any group that is
literally
any group that doesn't have all everything, do you know what I mean, A to Z. People will be like, have you been affected by this? I'm like, why do I have to be affected by this for me to post about it? That really shows you how you see like people who are posting about it. You just see that this is a person is a victim. That's why they're posting about this.
God forbid you have empathy, Amani.
Like, God forbid a girl has empathy.
Literally.
Ridiculous. So going back to make it mandatory, how can people find you? How can people see?
So, if people want to kind of keep up with our work, they can find us on Instagram, which is Make It Mandatory. People can email us as well if they want to like get more involved with the work side. But the biggest platform that we have is Instagram. They can sign the petition literally just by typing in Make It Mandatory on Google search, and the petition should be the first thing that comes up. Signing it would be super helpful because we're at an important point now where we're working with the kind of political systems to make this change like a reality. So if you could sign it, that would make my day.
Yes, go ahead and sign after you donate to Oxford.
After that. That's those are the two main ways.
Okay, lovely. And what more can we see from Make It Mandatory? Like, is there anything that you can, some inside scoops? Can you give us some
Good
scoops?
question. We have lots coming up. We're hoping to do more events for the general public to come and learn more, because I think it's something really important. Like, not just talking about the signs on a podcast, but talking about it to people. We're hoping to do more work with schools and young people. And yeah, I won't give away too much, but we have a lot coming up in the next month that should be exciting.
I'm so excited to see. And you know me, I'm at every event. So.
Yeah, you are. You actually are. You're a number one fan.
Yeah, fact. Have you got any TV shows or book recommendations for the audience?
I do. I feel like on the topic that we've been discussing today, a good book to start with, like a really accessible book, is called Men Who Hate Women by Laura Bates.
Okay.
She has also got like some new books and stuff out, but that's like a really good fundamental book to understand not just the interpersonal violence, but like what we mentioned earlier, how society is set up, the structures. Because if we think about things like rape that's been reported to the police, only 1% of them like even go to court, right? And that's not even conviction. You could go to court and be found not guilty even though everyone knows you've done it. That's on a technicality, you've been let off. So that's a good book to read to understand that and see the impact. And I would probably recommend that to men, because I think women know this, we live this, we don't need to read this to know it. And what else? I think anyone who hasn't watched Adolescence should watch Adolescence. I think those would be my two biggest takeaways, is to watch Adolescence and to read Men Who Hate Women, just to get a bit more kind of like insight into that, if it's not something you know much about, or if you're a man who actually wants to make a change in like a non-performative way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. She's side-eyeing you when she said the not performative.
Not just like taking a selfie with the book and like closing the book
putting
and
it back.
Aside, as like a way to pick up women. Because I also think that's something that men do. They do the things we want to hear, right?
Yeah, I think there's like a certain group of men that I just saw on TikTok. I'm sorry, it's really funny. But it's like, it's not funny, but it's like men who like paint their nails and wear like pearl necklace when they're actually like a narcissist.
I know that bit too well. That was targeted.
But it was really funny because I was like, yeah, I know one too many.
Yeah.
So anyways, thank you so much for coming on, by the way.
Thank you for having me.
It was lovely.
It's been really good. It's been fun. It's been a good time.
I'm glad. And I'm glad you can make time for me as well, because I've been dying to get you on the pod.
Thank you for having me.
And so guys, make sure you like, comment and subscribe. Make sure you follow if you're listening on Spotify or Apple. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.